On October 30th, 1942, Lieutenant Commander Hershel Albert Smith surveyed the damaged flight deck of the USS Enterprise at Noumea, New Caledonia. 75 Construction Battalion CB workers were welding steel plates over bomb craters that, by all logic and naval regulation, should have sunk the ship 4 days earlier. The carrier, Enterprise CV-6, a 25,000-ton, 824-foot behemoth, was already the most decorated warship America would ever put to sea. She had just endured the brutal Battle of Santa Cruz with 2 direct bomb hits, leaving 44 dead and 75 wounded. Her forward elevator was jammed, her hull was massively bulged on the starboard side, and a fuel tank was still leaking. Regulations demanded months in a shipyard, but the Pacific had no time for repairs. Lexington, Yorktown, Wasp, and Hornet were all gone, sunk at Coral Sea, Midway, or Santa Cruz. Saratoga was in Pearl Harbor under repair. Enterprise was the sole operational American carrier in the entire Pacific Ocean, the only vessel standing between the Japanese Navy and total control of the Solomon Islands. Japanese intelligence knew this, having already declared Enterprise sunk 3 times in the preceding 10 months, first after the Battle of the Eastern Solomons in August, and again after Santa Cruz in October. Each time, American propaganda countered the claim, and each time, Enterprise reappeared in battle, battered but functional. The Japanese began calling her the Gray Ghost, the ship that refused to die. Hershel Smith, the damage control officer since April 1942, was the key to this resilience. A Naval Academy graduate, his expertise was not in command, but in understanding how ships were built, where their weaknesses lay, and how to stop damage propagation. Smith knew every frame, bulkhead, pump, and ventilation trunk on Enterprise. When damage occurred, he didn't need blueprints. He could instantly visualize the problem and the necessary solution. His damage control teams were exceptional, drilled until muscle memory took over, making chaos routine. At the Battle of the Eastern Solomons in August, a bomb penetrated 3 decks, knocking out electrical power and spreading fires. Smith on the bridge ran toward the damage, assessing the catastrophe in seconds and issuing precise orders to contain the fire, shore up the bulkhead, and restore power. His teams executed perfectly, and the ship survived. At the Battle of Santa Cruz in October, 2 direct hits and 2 near misses struck within 5 minutes. Smith was thrown off his feet twice, his ears ringing and vision blurred, but he kept moving, his voice cutting through the chaos to direct his teams. The damage, 2 bombs penetrating interior spaces, hull buckling, flooding, and fires, should have overwhelmed any ship, but Smith and his crew controlled it all and saved Enterprise. The 4 days in Noumea saw Smith supervising repairs with 75 CBs, construction workers, who were skilled welders and mechanics, not damage control experts. Smith provided the direction, and they worked 24 hours a day to implement jury-rigged fixes. Welders plated bomb holes, carpenters shaped wooden plugs, and mechanics jury-rigged the elevator. The repairs were imperfect, leaving the ship vulnerable, but they worked. Smith knew another hit in a compromised area could sink the carrier in minutes, but he kept his teams prepared. Then a message arrived on November 10th. Japanese battleships were heading to Guadalcanal to bombard Henderson Field and land 10,000 reinforcements to retake the island. Enterprise had to sortie immediately, regardless of her condition. Captain Osborne Bennett Hardison, who had commanded the ship for only 10 days, asked Smith the critical question: can she fight? Smith confirmed the vulnerabilities, the jammed elevator, hull leaks, and compromised watertight integrity, but stated the engines, steering, and catapults worked. Enterprise could fight. She sailed at dawn on November 11th, with CBs still aboard, welders welding, and air hammers pounding. This decision and the events of the next 4 days would decide the Guadalcanal campaign. With new Essex-class and Independence-class carriers not due until 1943, Enterprise was the sole operational American carrier in the entire Pacific Ocean, the only vessel standing between the Japanese Navy and total control of the Solomon Islands. On November 12th, Enterprise launched her strikes. Her dive bombers, Douglas SBD Dauntless aircraft from Bombing Squadron 10, found the Japanese cruiser Kinugasa, which had previously shelled Henderson Field. Rolling in from 12,000 feet, they hit her with 500-pound bombs, starting fires and destroying the bridge, killing the captain. A second wave knocked out the cruiser's engines and rudder. Kinugasa capsized and sank, taking 511 of her crew down with her. That night, November 12th into the 13th, American destroyers and cruisers fought a chaotic, close-range surface battle against the Japanese battleship Hiei. The massive, heavily armored Hiei took dozens of shell hits and a torpedo. Crippled and circling at 8 knots, the Japanese tried to save her. They were wrong to think they had time. At dawn, November 13th, Enterprise aircraft found Hiei limping north. Enterprise launched a strike of Dauntless dive bombers and TBF Avenger torpedo planes. The dive bombers hit first, starting fires. The Avengers followed, skimming the water at 200 feet. At least 2 torpedoes slammed into the battleship's port side, opening the hull. Waves of aircraft from Henderson Field and Army B-17 bombers joined the relentless attacks. Enterprise launched 2 more strikes through the day. Japanese Zero fighters attempting to provide air cover were overwhelmed. By 2 p.m., Hiei had taken an estimated 5 to 8 torpedo hits and 7 to 8 bomb hits. Flooding and fires were uncontrollable. The Japanese scuttled her with demolition charges at sunset November 13th. 838 of her crew died. The battle continued, with more Japanese ships and 11 troop transports approaching. Enterprise pilots, exhausted from 3 days of multiple missions, kept flying, and maintenance crews worked miracles to keep damaged aircraft operational. On November 14th, Enterprise bombers found the transport convoy, packed with 10,000 veteran soldiers of the 38th Division. Their landing would retake Guadalcanal. The Enterprise dive bombers attacked at 8:30 a.m. The transports were thin-hulled cargo vessels, loaded with fuel and ammunition, and they exploded when hit. The first, Kinugawa Maru, broke in half and sank in minutes. Kanbaru and Brisbane Maru followed. Marine and Army bombers joined the slaughter. Enterprise launched a second strike, attacking the survivors. By 2 p.m., 7 of the 11 transports were sunk, and thousands of soldiers drowned. The 4 remaining, damaged and burning, tried to beach themselves. They ran aground at dawn on November 15th, but most of the surviving soldiers lost their equipment and supplies. Fewer than 2,000 made it ashore with weapons. That night, November 14th into the 15th, the final surface battle took place. American battleships Washington and South Dakota intercepted the remaining Japanese force, led by battleship Kirishima. The Washington cornered Kirishima and hammered her at close range with 16-inch guns. The Japanese scuttled the battleship after midnight, their second battleship loss in 3 days. By the morning of November 15th, the naval battle of Guadalcanal was over. The Japanese had lost 2 battleships, a heavy cruiser, 3 destroyers, and 7 troop transports. Henderson Field was secured, and the Marines would hold the island. Enterprise had been there for all of it. Captain Hardison commanded Smith and the CBs, the men who kept the vessel fighting when it should have been in a shipyard. Vice Admiral William Halsey personally commanded the CB detachment for their speedy and efficient emergency repairs during combat. 1 damaged carrier, kept operational by a damage control officer, and 75 construction workers had helped sink 2 battleships, 1 cruiser, and 7 transports, saving Guadalcanal and turning the Pacific War. The Japanese never attempted another major offensive there. This was not the first time Enterprise had defied death. She narrowly missed the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, due to bad weather. Her aircraft flew over the harbor during the attack, with 7 dive bombers shot down by Japanese and friendly fire. Days later, her aircraft sank the Japanese submarine I-70, drawing first blood for America after the war was declared. She escorted Hornet for the Doolittle raid in April 1942, which shocked Japan and proved their home islands were vulnerable. The Battle of Midway in June 1942 was the turning point of the war. American intelligence had broken the Japanese code, and Admiral Nimitz positioned Enterprise, Yorktown, and Hornet for an ambush. On the morning of June 4th, uncoordinated American attacks failed, and Japanese carriers seemed invincible. Enterprise's obsolete Torpedo Squadron 6 attacked without escort, drawing the Japanese combat air patrol down to sea level. 15 torpedo bombers were shot down, with only one man surviving. But the costly sacrifice cleared the skies above. At that moment, Enterprise dive bombers led by Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey arrived at altitude. Having reached the expected intercept point with no enemy in sight, McCluskey made a war-changing decision. He expanded his search, flying northwest then northeast, knowing he might not have enough fuel to return. At 9:55 a.m., he spotted a lone Japanese destroyer racing to rejoin the carrier fleet and followed it. 5 minutes later, he saw them. 4 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiru, their decks crowded with aircraft being refueled and rearmed. They were at their most vulnerable.
McCluskey split his formation, with 17 bombers attacking Kaga and 16 attacking Akagi. The Japanese saw them too late, as the Zero fighters were at sea level and anti-aircraft fire could not track the steep dive bombers. Kaga took 4 direct hits. 1 bomb penetrated the flight deck and exploded among rearming aircraft in the hangar. She became an inferno and was later scuttled. Akagi, the flagship, took only 1 hit from Lieutenant Dick Best's 3-plane section, but it was enough. The bomb exploded among rearming aircraft, turning the hangar into a fireball. She burned through the night and was scuttled at dawn. Simultaneously, Yorktown's bombers hit Soryu with 3 bombs, engulfing her in flames, and she sank that evening. In 5 minutes, 3 of the 4 Japanese carriers were mortally wounded. The 4th, Hiru, launched a counterattack that found and crippled Yorktown. Enterprise launched 24 dive bombers that found Hiru and hit her with 4 bombs, sinking her the next morning. 4 Japanese carriers, the cream of their carrier force and the pilots who had attacked Pearl Harbor, were destroyed. McCluskey's decision to expand his search made the difference. Enterprise participated in 5 of the 6 major carrier battles in the Pacific by the end of 1942. It had been hit by bombs 5 times, lost nearly 200 men, and been declared sunk 3 times, yet she kept fighting. The Japanese could not fathom how the gray ghost kept appearing. This resilience was due to superior American damage control doctrine, better compartmentalization, and highly trained crews, but more importantly, it was due to men like Smith, the CBS, and captains like Hardison. As new carriers joined the fleet in 1943, Enterprise continued to fight, participating in major campaigns including the Gilbert Islands, the Marshall Islands, and the Battle of the Philippine Sea. At the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944, she sank 3 enemy ships and shot down 52 planes, more than any other carrier. She even pioneered night carrier operations in late 1944, a concept so successful it became a Navy staple. She supported the invasion of Iwo Jima, flying continuously for 174 hours. During the Okinawa campaign in 1945, she was hit by 2 devastating kamikazes. The second, on May 14th, penetrated the flight deck and exploded near the forward elevator, killing 13 men and wounding 68. Damage control teams contained the raging fires, and Enterprise survived her last wound of the war. The damage was so severe that repairs took until late August 1945. Enterprise missed the surrender ceremony in Tokyo Bay, ending her 7 years of service and 20 major battles in a repair dock. Her final tally was staggering: 911 enemy aircraft shot down and 71 enemy ships sunk. She steamed over 275,000 miles and participated in 18 of 22 major carrier actions. Enterprise earned 20 battle stars, more than any other U.S. warship in World War II, and was the only carrier to receive both the Presidential Unit Citation and the Navy Unit Commendation. The British Admiral T presented her with his pennant, an honor not given to a foreign warship in over 400 years. Secretary of the Navy James Forrestal called her the vessel that most nearly symbolizes the history of the United States Navy in World War II. But when the war ended, America forgot. Enterprise was decommissioned in 1947. Plans to preserve her as a memorial failed as fundraising money never materialized. On July 1, 1958, the most decorated ship in U.S. Navy history, the carrier that fought from Pearl Harbor to Okinawa, the gray ghost that refused to die in battle, was sold for scrap. By March 1960, she was gone, cut up for scrap metal in New Jersey. Hershel Smith, the damage control officer who kept her fighting through 20 battles, retired without a major decoration, his role mostly forgotten in official records. Wade McCluskey, whose decision at Midway changed the course of the war, also retired a rear admiral, his name largely unknown. The CBS, the construction workers who repaired a carrier under fire, returned to civilian life, never talking about their heroism. The failure to save Enterprise became a crucial wake-up call that changed how America preserves its military heritage. Following her loss, preservation movements gained momentum, saving other carriers like Intrepid, Hornet, Lexington, and Yorktown as museums. But Enterprise, the ship that mattered most, was gone. The lesson of her loss was not forgotten. The full story of Enterprise was found in Navy archives in 1991. The stories confirm how one damaged carrier, repaired by construction workers, fought through the Battle of Guadalcanal and changed the Pacific War. The veterans who remained remembered November 1942, when their ship, still under repair, made the difference. Naval power in war, the story proves, comes not from the newest ships or the biggest guns, but from the sailors, officers, and repair crews who keep damaged ships fighting. Enterprise was the most dangerous American warship in World War II, not because she was advanced, but because she would not quit. She was the gray ghost, the ship that refused to die.